I mean, this is honestly just hilarious. But what is going on, guys? Welcome back to Rangers Central. And as you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, we're going to be talking about the New York Rangers with obviously because you're on Ranger Central, but we're going to be talking about how they are not going to give up their first round pick, apparently, most likely this trade deadline, which is just, honestly, if you hear the reason, which I'm going to tell you the reason because that's why you clicked on the video, it is laughable. So this info comes from Darren Dreger, who was on TSN. First, he drops the announcement that the Rangers were in on Elias Lindholm and that they did make an offer. Obviously, it was not accepted as he went to the Vancouver Canucks. So I don't think we'll ever hear what that offer is. Maybe one day we will, but all I know is that there was an offer now that Darren Dreger confirmed it. So the Rangers were in, and again, I still feel they dodged a bullet there. I think that giving up and burning prime assets on Elias Lindholm would have been a huge mistake for a guy that was going to play 3C here. And even if he played right wing, the same story with Kreider and Zibanejad being together is just, that's a whole separate issue, but I'm not going to rant and rave about that. I'm going to tell you guys why. Before I do, though, leave a like on the video if you enjoy it. Subscribe if you guys are new, especially if you're Ranger fans, and turn on your notifications so you know when I upload or go live. And I'm sorry for making you guys wait to hear, but James Dolan wants the Rangers to protect their 2024 first-round pick so that the Rangers can be part of the spotlight at the Sphere. That's what Darren Dreger said. It's honestly funny how I didn't even have to fact-check this to make sure it was real. I ended up fact-checking it regardless, but it's funny that I just saw this from @HockeyJoseph10 on Twitter. Good follow, by the way. Go follow him there. But then I saw the video clip too. It's hilarious that I didn't even need to double check this to know it's believable. To know it's believable. But for me, I am honestly not against this. I think actually Dolan, we could talk about him we're not going to talk about the other stuff there going on. But in terms of this, he might accidentally put himself in a spot here, or like accidentally be smart, if you will, here in terms of the Rangers not giving up their first round pick this year. And I've been beating the drum that if they are giving up a first, I'd prefer for them to give up next year's, because the plethora of defensemen in this year's draft, I think, would go such a long way for this organization going forward, who is starving for defensive prospects, that really only has Matthew Robertson at this point in the pipeline as a guy that hasn't even played an NHL game. Outside of that, there's really not a whole lot outside maybe like Drew Fortescue, and there's a couple other that I'm sure I'm not mentioning, but there's no really bona fide defensive prospect that you could say is going to come in and make an impact, whether it's in the top four or even on the bottom pair for this hockey team anytime soon. And I think getting a defensive prospect would be very crucial, considering there's, I think, 14 out of 32 possible picks in the first round mocked to be defensemen. I think that was from Bob McKenzie's board. I think that would go a long way, and I don't think the Rangers this year in general deserve their first round pick given up for this core. And I know people debate about it and argue about it, but to me, that's just how I feel. That's just how I feel, where I'd rather them give up next year's first, where maybe more changes happen in the offseason, and I could feel more confident for sure that pick's going to be later in the draft versus this year's first, where I don't know. Like, I don't think that, I still don't have full confidence in this core. And I know that they had a win against Colorado last night, so that might move people. To me, still, I need to see way more, and I need to see them build off of a win like that going forward into the trade deadline before I'm ready to say, you know what, you got to give up a first. And even then, is there anyone on the market worth giving up a first round pick for at this point? I would say no, unless they're getting someone with term, like a Frank Vetrano, like a Boone Jenner, who we're seeing rumored. I'm just naming names. I'm not saying that they have to go get them. I'm just naming names for the sake of guys that have extra years on their contracts. But I just think that it's smart asset management, regardless, to not burn your first round pick and just prime assets at this year's deadline when, this core just has a lot of flaws to it. And I'd imagine that Drury wants to give up that first, and he's probably annoyed that he couldn't do it for Lindholm. But the thing that just confuses me is that why did we see reports that the Rangers are going to go all in this year at the deadline and that, they're going to be super aggressive, but at the same time, this screams the opposite, that they can't give up their first, or Drury doesn't really have access to give out the first. I'm sure Dolan might be okay with it if it's for a certain player, but I don't know. Like, I'm scratching my head as at the whole entire thing. I'm just scratching my head as to what the game plan is here anymore, because this organization just has me in a mind blender with what they're going to do at the trade deadline and who they're even going to target. And I know Drury likes to keep it close to the vest, but we did hear they inquired about Vetrano recently, and they're still interested in Henry. But if you want one or both of them, you have to give up a first round pick. So is it going to be next year's pick? And if it is Anaheim even going to want that? I'd imagine other teams are thinking the same thing that I'm thinking, where, okay, this is a rare instance where there's a plethora of defensive prospects. We want to use, I'm speaking as a team or as a general manager in this way, but we want to hold on and gather extra first round picks for this year because of the fact that this is a rare instance where there is so many defensemen that could go in the first round potentially. So I don't know, unless I'm wrong and there's in 2025 it's the same, I'd have to look at that draft class, but I'm more focused on this upcoming draft, to be honest with you. But regardless, I just don't know what the plan is. Like, the East is pretty open still for the Rangers if they did want to try to improve, even though there's still a lot of things that I still feel need to change, especially starting first with Igor Shesterkin given better goaltending. I think that's number one of all things, because when Igor's on, obviously the Rangers roll off of that because of the fact that they're relying on goaltending. Like, let's not sugarcoat, they're relying on goaltending and their power play. That's been their bread and butter for the past few years. Whether I like it or not, that's just their formula, and that's just the DNA of the team and how they are. But it just, I don't know. And again, it's not the best formula, but if they want to add to this, I just don't see how they do it without giving up their first round pick for this year. But again, I think it's going to save this team for the future and for this year as well. I think that this is actually going to be a blessing in disguise, despite the reason being beyond stupid for it. I just am... I just couldn't help but laugh, though, when I saw the report. I couldn't help but laugh when I saw the report. So all I know is that now I'm interested, because they were in on Lindholm. Clearly, that would have included next year's first instead of this year's. Probably what put Calgary, pushed them away from accepting the Rangers deal potentially. So what's the pivot move now? And I don't know how they're going to get, again, like, I just asked the question, how are they getting anyone without giving up a first round pick or, just someone of magnitude? Because the center market is thinning out, and clearly the center market is giving up a first round pick, as we saw with the first two centers off the board going. Clearly that's just the market. We saw it with the Islanders a couple of years ago. Everyone said it was an overpay for Pajot. That's what the market was. The Rangers with Andrew Kopp a couple seasons ago, everyone said it was an overpay, but that's what the market was at the time. So I don't know. And then, like I said, this year too, I still feel the Lindholm trade was an overpay, but that's the market. So it is what it is. But this is just ridiculous. Like, this is just beyond ridiculous. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And I don't know what to say with this organization anymore. I just don't know. This organization has me just absolutely in a mind blender, like I mentioned before. But leave a like on the video if you have not already. Don't forget to subscribe again. Tell me your thoughts in the comments. But we'll see what comes from this. But tomorrow will be the live post game for the game against Tampa Bay, so be sure to be on the lookout for that. So yeah, I'll see you guys then, unless news breaks obviously before the Tampa game. But yeah, I'll see you guys then if not.